Hi again everyone and welcome back to the channel. Got a short video again for you this week. So I've just done a Floyd Rose setup on this guitar. I broke a string on it, so as you can see it's all restrung again and everything, and I've balanced the Floyd Rose, and I've also fitted a new brass block to replace the thinner steel block that was already on there. So I'm just going to show you how I go about setting up a Floyd Rose again. I've covered this before, but it's always worth jogging your memory and going over these things so that you get it fixed in there so you know how to do it. It's not that difficult once you know how to do it. A lot of people struggle with setting these floating bridges up. But anyway, without further ado, let me show you how I go about setting one up. Just before I do though, if I could just remind you, please subscribe to the channel. That'll help me out, and ask me a question, leave me a comment, all that stuff. But let's have a look at how I do this Floyd Rose bridge setup. Okay, I've got the strings off the guitar and I've put some tape across the top of the saddles, stop those string blocks from falling out. I've already took the back cover off, and I'm going to replace this thinner metal block with a brass original Floyd Rose one. That's if it fits. I'm fairly sure it will. I'm 95% certain that I've got the right size and that should fit, but we shall see. So I need to remove this bridge entirely, take the saddles off so that I can get to the screws to be able to fit this. So I'm going to go away and do that, and once I've done that I'll come back and we'll go through setting the Floyd Rose bridge up. Okay, so I've fitted that brass block. It fitted perfectly, as you can see. And there's the old thinner one that I took off the guitar. And for those interested, this thinner one weighs 112 grams. So it's quite chunky. It's like steel. It's not some kind of cheap zinc alloy. So that's 112 grams. But this brass one weighs 165 grams. So it's still quite a bit heavier, which should help to pull the guitar back into tune. Although I was having no tuning issues, to be honest, with this one. But I like these brass blocks. As you can see, I've just put a plastic ruler underneath the bridge just to hold it in place temporarily while I fit the new strings. I won't make you sit and watch me do that, so I'll put these strings on and then I'll come back and we'll go from there. Right, I've got the strings back on. And I've put a wooden block, like I always do, in the back here. So once we've tightened the strings up, I haven't tuned it up to pitch yet, but I've just put the strings tight enough to hold that block in place. It's pushed that brass block back against the wood, and that's tight in there now. I can't move it. So now I can remove this plastic ruler that was just there temporarily while I got the strings on. I can get rid of that. You just need to cut yourself a block of wood that just fits nicely and snugly into there. And now the idea is, I've gone through this before, but it's always worth going over again. The idea is now we're just going to tighten these claw screws up until that piece of wood just drops out on its own. but obviously we need to tune the strings up to pitch first and play them in a little bit, stretch them, make sure the guitar's staying in tune, and then screw those claw screws in until that block falls out. And what we should have is a perfectly balanced and level bridge. It should still look like it does at the minute. So as you can see at the minute, it's perfectly parallel with the body, which is how it should be. That's how it needs to look. You don't want it tilting one way or the other. You don't want it tilting backwards or tilting forwards. It wants to be flat and parallel. So I'll tune it up. I'll stretch the strings. I'll keep retuning it until they stop going out of tune. And then I'll come back and we'll screw those claw screws in. Well, the guitar's in tune. I've stretched the strings. So we'll put the springs back on. And then we'll tighten those claw screws up. And hopefully we should have a perfectly level and perfectly balanced Floyd Rose bridge when that wooden block just pops out. So go slow when you're doing this, just a few turns at a time, and keep checking that wooden block. And eventually these springs will take over the tension of the strings, and that's when the block will fall out. And keep this parallel with this back wall as well. There, that's loose. I can probably pull that out now. There we go. And there you have it. So we've still got a nice level bridge. Just check the other side. Yep, that's nice and level on both sides. So we should be good to go. I'll just recheck the tuning on the guitar, and then I'll tighten the locking nuts, which I haven't tightened those up yet. And that should be that. So that's how you set up a Floyd Rose bridge from scratch when all the strings are off. That's how I like to set a Floyd Rose style bridge up. It's not that difficult. Give it a go. If you are a bit daunted by taking all 6 strings off, then you can just replace them one at a time if you break one, or just replace the one that's broken. But taking all 6 strings off, it gives you an opportunity to clean the neck, polish the frets, clean in between the pickups, etc. And also, if you change gauge of strings, if you go up a gauge or down a gauge, you're going to have to rebalance that bridge anyway. So it's well worth your while learning how to do this. Once you've done it half a dozen times, it'll be like second nature. It's not that difficult, so give it a go. But anyway, that's all from me this week. Look after yourselves, and I'll be back with another one hopefully next week. Until then, take care, look after yourselves, and bye for now.